Welcome, friends. Welcome to Self-Care Sunday. As always, in just a few moments, I will start by ringing the bell so we can all just take a moment to arrive. So whether you are sitting in a chair or lying down or standing in your kitchen, just take a few moments to pause and breathe and let yourself start to land right where you are. And as I ring the bell, let's remember that even though we're not together in the same room, practicing at exactly the same time, that we are here with others, that others are doing this practice. Other people are choosing to do their own self-healing through the self-care practice. There are other people that are willing and taking the time to slow down and just breathe and to reconnect with themselves. I've been thinking a lot about community healing. It's something that's on my mind a lot. And community healing is a process of healing that's made up by individuals who are willing to do the work of self-care and healing themselves. So I want to thank you for doing this work. Thank you for your willingness to increase self-awareness. Thank you for your willingness to really ask yourself maybe sometimes hard questions about maybe where you're lacking in self-care or what you really need to feel more balanced and whole in your life. That commitment, though, is what will transform our communities into communities that are healthy and communities that feel whole and alive. We can't expect someone else's acts will address the healing that really needs to happen in our communities if we're not willing as individuals to do our own kind of inner inventory of where the places are in us that maybe need to be addressed and healed and processed, those things that may need to be processed. And if we all do this, it changes how we show up. It transforms our relationships and how we treat others. So let's just make that commitment and just acknowledge ourselves for showing up today. So let's listen to the bell with that intention. Take a few rounds of breaths that feel supportive and nurturing to you. Today's practice is about full radical acceptance and self-compassion. And these are two things that sound really simple, but often feel like the hardest work of all. I was introduced really fully to this practice in 2012 through the work of Brach, whose book Radical Acceptance really shifted me and helped me to see that peace, inner peace, doesn't come from fixing everything or fighting ourselves and what's going on in ourselves, but it comes from meeting our experience exactly as it is with kindness and non-judgment. Acceptance doesn't mean that we like what's happening or that we're giving up on growth or change. It means that we're no longer adding the extra layer of suffering that comes from saying, well, this shouldn't be happening, or I wish this wasn't happening, so I'm just gonna try to fix it. I'm gonna try to change it, right? That actually creates more anxiety, it creates more stress, it creates more tension. And the reality is that this is what's happening. If we're angry, that's what's happening. If something unfair is happening or that feels unfair, it's happening, right? I was reminded of this practice this week because I haven't been feeling well, which I don't like. I don't like that feeling of feeling not very well, a little cold coming on. I had a couple nights of insomnia with some higher anxiety. I also learned last weekend that a friend of ours who I knew was ill, but he was put on hospice and he died this Friday. And those are all things that I wish were not happening. But my wishing them not being so doesn't actually help me to process them or to be with the feelings and let the feelings that are coming through get processed in a way that's healthy, right? So this week, because of some of these things going on in my life, I decided to come back to this practice and remind myself and recommit to this practice of really accepting what's going on and doing it with compassion. And it really shifted my week. Did that mean that the grief or the anxiety went away? Did it mean that I instantly was well and not feeling sick anymore? No, those things were all still there, but I was able to be with them in a way that created more spaciousness and softness and more presence in my life. And I actually felt more alive and able to not just be with those things and help and kind of be with them like a good friend, but I also was still able to live my life and do the things that I needed to do. When we stop resisting what is here, we create just enough space for that compassion to come through. And that compassion is what begins to change everything. Like I said, we feel a little more softness, a little more space. There's more presence, there's more aliveness. So let's begin by just noticing our body and our breath. See if you can get really present to your body and your breath. Taking a few moments to bring your attention to those places where your body is feeling supported, like maybe your feet on the ground or the weight of your body in the chair, right? Just see if you can practice bringing your present awareness to your experience. Notice the gentle movement of your breath. There's no need to change it. Just be with the breath, even if it feels a little stilted or shallow, right? Or tense. See if you can just trust that the body will breathe itself. And I like to do this as an act of kindness and compassion, placing a hand on my heart or my belly. So see how that feels to you if you're willing to try that. And there may be somewhere else on your body that you want your hand or hands, maybe just on your thighs, maybe on your face, right? But see if you can feel the warmth of your hand or hands. Notice how that feels. And then let your shoulders drop and let your jaw soften. And then bring to mind something that has been slightly difficult to you recently. Nothing too huge, but something that has brought some frustration or irritation or brings a little worry, or maybe a sense of just not feeling enough. Or like, man, I wish I wouldn't have said that. Again, nothing overwhelming. Just something that's been a little bit of heaviness maybe on your heart, or you've been holding in your heart. And as you hold this situation gently in your awareness, I'm going to give you some things to say silently to yourself. First, say, this is what's here right now. This is what's here. And notice what happens in your body when you just acknowledge. There's no need to fix it or change it or analyze it. It's just what is. And see if you can just notice that. You might add to that, and it's okay to feel this way. I'm not the first person that's felt this way. I won't be the last, and it's okay. This is part of being human. And this feeling, you can also tell yourself, this feeling isn't here to harm me. Trust that your nervous system has the resilience and strength, and you have the courage to handle what shows up in your emotions. See what shows up. And if there's some tightness or restlessness, just, again, allow it to be there, as long as it's tolerable enough. And I like to whisper to myself, this too is here, and this too belongs. Then you can bring in more kindness and compassion. And I have some phrases for you to kind of try on and see how they feel to you. First, just say, this is a moment of difficulty. And difficulty is a part of the human experience. Everyone experiences difficulty from time to time. May I be kind to myself in this moment of difficulty and discomfort. And you can come up with your own phrases. I'll give you a few more examples though. One is, may I give myself the care that I need right now. See how that feels. Another is, may I remember that I'm doing the best I can. We're not looking for perfection. See if you can just be with and accept with compassion what's happening. Another phrase that I like to use is, may I allow myself to rest or to take a break. And you might not believe the words right away, and that's okay. This practice is not about convincing yourself, so let that go. It's about giving your body and your nervous system a chance to feel viscerally in your body what safety and kindness could be like. Pretend that you are caring for a good friend. Give that same care to yourself. And if really strong, intolerable emotions arise, just know you always have the choice to stop doing this, to do something else, to walk away from it. But if it feels tolerable, even if it's a little bit intense, just see if you can be with it with your breath. Sometimes I have to move away from the more intense emotion and come back to like the warmth of my hand on my chest, or the feeling of my feet and legs and hips being supported by the floor. And that's how I build capacity. I touch into the hard things gently, with acceptance, with compassion. Say, this is what's here. Oh, but right now it feels like a little too much, so I'm gonna go back to my sense of groundedness, to my breath, to my hand on my chest. Something that feels a little more comforting. And then I can go back into what feels uncomfortable for a few moments. And this is what is called titration, just kind of going from what feels less pleasant, even though it's what's happening, and we want to let ourselves be with it for just a few moments if it gets to be too much. And then we come back to what is more neutral or what feels better. And by going back and forth, we train our nervous system to be more resilient. I accept myself just as I am. And may I meet myself in this day, in this time, with compassion. Whenever you're ready, you can let your eyes open if they were closed, or look around your space, or move or stretch. When I look around my space, I try to find a color or maybe a plant, like I was mentioning. Sometimes I even, in the camera screen, look at the plants behind me to help me to ground and orient. And that can help us to remind our nervous system that we are safe and things are okay. Remember, this is a practice. This is not about being perfect. It's not about being constantly calm. It's about building our resilience so that we can experience the full spectrum of being a human being, the full spectrum of life, even the hardest times. That's actually what's going to make us feel more alive and will help us to be more empathetic and compassionate towards others. So it doesn't just start to change us, it changes those around us because they can feel it when we're with them. And I want to end with this poem by Rumi. It's translated by Coleman Barks, and you may have heard it before. It's called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Remember that peace is not passive, that it takes courage for us to show up and do this healing work within ourselves in service of healing our communities. Thanks always for joining me, for practicing, and I will see you next week for Self-Care Sunday. Till then, take good care. Peace.